Hi everyone, it's Margaret Manning here with Retire Different. Retire Different is a place for people who want to ask the right questions to make great financial decisions in order to have a really fabulous retirement. And we bring experts in to talk with us about topics that are of interest. And today I've got two and a friend to help us sort through some of these topics. Now, Pam Kruger is with her little dog, Chloe. And Pam is an investing and financial expert. She takes advice from Chloe. Pam is an author and a television personality. She's the creator of Wealth Ramp and creator, which is a tool that helps you connect between fiduciary advisors and consumers. Very cute dog, Pam.
Chloe is going to be 18, Margaret, so she's very much a part of the retirement scene.
I can see she's a really sweet dog. I've heard her before, but I didn't see her. She's very sweet. Thank you for including her in our introduction. And Beth, we have another person here who I want to introduce. Wonderful person, Beth Grulich is investor, financial advisor at Abacus Wealth Partners in California. And she loves her clients and her customers. And she does this because she cares about them and she wants to empower them with information. The company she works for, Abacus Wealth Partners, is a registered investment advisor firm, which means they are following fiduciary standards. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, but it's very important for making the human side of money come to life. So welcome to both of you.
The human side of money with the dog in the background. Fun in the show.
You know, we've actually done a few talks today, and I've really enjoyed just that simple fact that we're talking about financial questions in a human way, that they're not abstract and black and white. They're multi-textured. So the topic I wanted to chat about right now, though, was about how to get informed, how to improve your financial literacy, how to know what things are, how to navigate the world in order to make those decisions and ask the right questions. So Pam, let's start with you. I mean, how do you think you can, what is literacy when it comes to financial planning? Let's talk about that.
So literacy when it comes to money and, working out your financial plan in retirement, especially, and your investments, the things to really stay away from are most important at this point, because the goal and the name of the game here is to preserve and protect. You still want to grow your money, but you really want to preserve and you really want to protect it. So it's good to be aware of what not to do and what to be steer clear of traps. So for example, advisors who present products as solutions, much like a doctor who doesn't yet know you, talks about a prescription that seems like it's pushed by the pharmaceutical company, then doctors aren't getting commission for doing so. But most investment advisors, not Beth, but most are out there selling products. So the literacy comes into understanding what to stay away from. Such things as being sold insurance, too much insurance, and it's not to say that all products like annuities that we hear so often associated with a negative connotation doesn't mean that you throw all of them out the window, but you want to be aware, of what are the things to avoid, the big red flags at this point, because you want to protect and preserve.
Okay, so this is a really good way to start, because I think you think about literacy as knowing about information, about products, about services, and so on. But Beth, you are a financial advisor, but your company is very much grounded, as I mentioned, in this fiduciary standard, which is, you can explain exactly what that is. But I'd like to ask you sort of how you approach a client coming into you, what you wished they had studied or what they knew about before talking to you. But talk us a bit at first about what you are, what you do.
Sure. Thank you, Margaret. So a fiduciary means that we put our clients' interests first. We're not paid through commissions or products, as Pam referred to.
Right.
What my goal is to make sure that I provide comfort and a financial plan so that you know exactly what you can safely spend and that you enjoy doing it because you've budgeted for the things you've worked so hard, the dreams and goals that you want to make come true.
Right.
What bothers me in the industry, and I agree with Pam, I really dislike 85% of my peers, I'm afraid to say, but what they do is by design, they make clients feel stupid. They make them intimidated so they don't ask questions. Things like annuities I see them, they're 150 pages, and I'm not exaggerating. I can't read 150 pages and understand what I'm investing in. And so I just tell everyone, all of your loyal listeners out there, if you don't understand it, run. There's no reason, there's nothing that can be so sophisticated and complicated that you can't understand. And if you don't, then don't invest in it.
Yeah. So actually, talking about learning about products like annuities or insurance it's not a bad thing to be aware of that, to educate yourself on those services. But I guess the key thing, and Pam, you've made this your life's work to build Wealth Ramp, which is this tool that connects fiduciaries like Beth to clients and people. Don't even call them clients; they're just human beings that are entering a retirement phase. So what do you advise people, or what do you ask them, I guess, before you start matching them? What are the things you want them to be aware of?
Oh, man. Well, for me, I know where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
So I go deep into vetting all, and there aren't any salespeople that I'm going to want to work with on Wealth Ramp, because to me, the bottom line is that the advisor or the planner needs to work only and directly for you. Right. So think of it this way. If you don't remember anything else, what to avoid. If you are working with an advisor who works for a brokerage firm or for an insurance company, they do not work for you. Their first fiduciary loyalty must be to their employer. That's not you. Yeah. So there are advisors out there who work only for you. And you know what? I think another misnomer is that people think that, or maybe perceive that financial planners or advisors like Beth are with firms that are not big on investing and don't have all of the research and don't have all the big office stuff. Let me tell you something. They're far superior. They have I'm not just talking about Beth. I'm talking about the industry. The registered investment advisor who's following best practices has access to more investments and usually knows more than the person who's at the company that's selling the products. The bottom line is, about the literacy piece of it, just, kind of sort of looking at what people in your age group are typically investing in. It's not going to be a very big list. It's only going to be a list about this long. Right. And when you hear products that are in there, just try to get familiar enough. If you see a lot of negative stuff on Google or a lot of negative things that are written about these products, pay attention to that. And then when you do go meet with the advisor, you can ask, are they all evil? Are they all bad? Or, how does that work? And you can just start asking questions.
So Beth, thanks, Pam, for that. That's really useful. But Beth, when someone comes into your office and they sit down with you and they start chatting, I'm hearing the questions that our community might ask. They, I think, would want to be informed about products and services, because that would be then how you ask questions and ultimately make decisions. Now, would you say that part of your job is to help people make decisions, or do you think that that's not what you're there to do? I mean,
it's more about opening channels of communication.
Right.
So the biggest question that I ask my clients is, how much risk are you comfortable taking? Because the reality is, and one thing I did want to mention before I forget is that if someone tells you, if they promise you they can outperform the market or they can do better than the stock market as a whole, then run, because there is no such thing as a guarantee. However, if you smartly invest, and most importantly, not too aggressively, because Pam, you mentioned this, when you're in your retirement years, most of your assets need to be sitting in bonds, and not all bonds are created equally, but safe investment grade, short-term bonds. And then a certain portion, depending upon your comfort with risk, needs to be in the stock market, but it needs to be smartly in the stock market. So it's really not about smoke and mirrors. It's just about some pretty darn boring investments. It's more important that you live your dreams, your goals, and you know how large that portfolio needs to be and how it should be invested so that those things come true.
That's just one thing. I was just going to say I'm channeling the group here, because I'm trying to think of what people might be responding. And I would say that my first voice is coming to me is, well, that woman sounds a little bit conservative. She sounds like a little bit kind of afraid of taking risks. And this is the time where there's innovation and there's all these amazing companies and Bitcoin and all these, cool things going on. And it sounds like these fiduciary folks are just a little bit buy the bonds, stay safe. Is that how you would describe yourself? A little bit conservative?
Well, no, the bond part is the critical capital. You don't ever want, if you have 7 years of cash needs, that needs to be sitting in bonds. That's not negotiable in my mind. But the other part, absolutely. I mean, I'm a believer in owning the whole market in low cost index funds. So you own all those fun things. You don't own Bitcoin. We don't need to go there. That's a whole different topic. But you own tried and true stocks across the world. So you do have some exciting parts, but it's just a matter of what works best for you.
Okay, Pam.
And Margaret, it's proportion. So it's not like, do you not invest in Bitcoin, which really you probably don't want to. But, let's just say that you had a wild urge to buy gold coins and Bitcoin and, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's not a matter of saying so much, no, you shouldn't ever do that. It's just, best way to describe it is, have you ever watched CNBC and seen the crazy guy, Jim Cramer?
Yes, the one that stands on the desk. I think he stands on his desk. And,
yeah, the one that barks at the moon. So what's the name of his show?
I don't know. Money something.
No, it's called Mad Money. And the reason it's called Mad Money is because it's only this much, this little tiny sleeve of your savings that you would put into the Bitcoin, or you would put
just
into
for fun, just for fun.
Put into the technology and the innovation. So you have the majority of your money that's really well
critical capital. Critical capital, we call that.
Capital, because you need the money. Yeah. So then you have that mad money, and you can scratch that itch, and you can invest that way with a little bit of your money and still participate that way.
Okay, I've got another angle I want to take here, just real quickly, because I'm really getting, I'm enjoying this conversation. It's wonderful. But what about the people who say, I'm sorry, I didn't make good decisions when I was younger. I don't have any money in bonds, or I have very, very little in stock, maybe a little bit from my employer. But what about people that don't have $1 million, that to save? How can a financial advisor help them in going into retirement? What literacy do they need to know? What's the minimum they need to understand? Beth, do you want to take that?
Sure. So there's a generalization called the 4% withdrawal rule. And what that says is that over a 30-year period, you can safely take 4% out of any size portfolio and not fear running out of money. Now, that said, you ask, what if there isn't any money? Well, you're never too late to start planning, ever.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what you have. We don't look back. None of us can look back. We can only look forward.
Yes.
And, there are options. You just figure out what options might be available. My goal is never to close doors. We always want to keep as many doors open as possible.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I'm thinking, just even in my own experience, is that even if you can just continue saving, even if you're only bringing in Social Security and money from a part-time job. I mean, even if that's all you've got, if you can put aside $50 or $100 a week, if you can, or a month, that adds up over time, and it's more of a habit, of having intelligence about your boundaries. What you can afford, what you can't.
And Margaret, speaking of being able to afford, you're not going to necessarily, on a very small budget, and you're trying to make ends meet, you've got Social Security and whatever income you're making from part-time work, or a pension that you might have had, or whatever it might be. It's really the idea of going to a planner, and you're not going to spend $5,000, but you might spend $500 on a really good session with a true financial planner, and you do that once a year because it's dynamic. And the reason for it, it's all peace of mind. It's you're sitting down and you're saying, here's what I don't have, Margaret. I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm fear-based right now because I don't have enough money. And that advisor is saying back to you, you know what? We got this. Let me show you how. Let me show you what the choices are. I'm not gonna make stuff up that doesn't exist and give you money that doesn't exist, but we can make things work, in the following ways. That's what real fiduciary financial planners do. It's not that they're conservative. It's that they're looking at your whole picture, your whole life, including your investments and what you do have, and figuring out how to spend and make and get by with what you don't have.
Yeah. And loving what you have. I mean, that's whatever that is. I think and I think what's been so refreshing talking to you, to Beth and Pam here, is the human side of money, that it isn't always black and white. I mean, we were sitting here, we have a little laugh about something that's, related to talking about Bitcoin and abstract stocks and bonds. But in reality, everybody's got, like you say, they're living their life as best they can. And their retirement is not always going to be what they envisaged. And there may be disappointment. And Beth, you're the type of person, I mean, just from having talked to you these few minutes, that really seems to care about your people, about your potential friends.
That's exactly right. They are. They become family. We live life together.
Yeah,
everyone needs a quarterback. Your financial advisor should be your financial quarterback.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Pam, before we close, I wanted to ask you, though, to drill down a little bit more on this whole idea of talking to a financial planner, because, I mean, we've got Beth here as a great example of what one looks like, but what do you suggest people, how they approach a financial planner? What kinds of questions should they have in the back of their mind? How define that relationship?
Yeah, so the first thing is, when you are going to make that all important phone call and book a first appointment with an advisor, and you're probably just really anxious over the idea, because you're thinking that you're going to get talked down to, because that's the way salesmen and salespeople have always. That's how they get power over you. A real financial advisor doesn't do that. When you walk in the door, the advisor's not going to, they might tell you about the firm and tell you about themselves as a fiduciary, but they're not going to make a presentation and pitch you on anything. They're going to sit back and they're going to listen, and they're going to ask a lot of questions. So guess what? It becomes a conversation, and all of a sudden you're into it, just like we're talking right now.
Right.
And then you're explaining, I was hoping to do this, but it didn't work out and I'm disappointed. And what does that have to do with money? And the advisor's like, it all has to do with money. Yeah. Let me tell you, it all has to do with it. So in getting to know you, that first appointment and that first approach it's all about you. So just walk in knowing you can calm your nerves and know that it's going to be an appointment and a meeting, or first meeting, about you. What you're trying to do, what you're worried about, what you're hoping for.
I was just thinking about this. I don't know whether you do this, Beth, but it seems like a really good idea when someone even books the meeting with you to just say to them, before you come in, just take half an hour just to sit down and do two things. Just assess who you are, what's your style of living, what's important, what are your priorities, and then also what's your dream. Like you said that earlier. That was, do you do that in that first initial planning?
Definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely. It really isn't about the money. Yes, that's the foundation, but it's more about you're absolutely right. Who are you? What are your dreams? How can we make it happen? A good financial planner sets expectations properly so that to create happiness, but a realistic happiness.
Right.
And my other point, I just want to quickly say, people think ignorance is bliss. I've never had a client as resistant as they were for that first meeting, because we all have a reason. We didn't save enough. We weren't responsible enough. We have too much credit card debt. Once you shake the dust off the rug and you peer underneath, it feels good.
Yeah. No,
Margaret,
sorry, go ahead.
One of my vetting questions toward the end of when I do a profile interview with an advisor, this is after I've scrubbed down the background. This is at the end. One of my favorite questions to ask an advisor is, what's your client retention rate? What I mean by that is clients should have to die in order to leave you, because these are long-term relationships. This is not a transaction. It's not transactional. It's a collaboration. And when you have a really good financial planner in your life, then they are your quarterback, and it goes on forever. And by the way, it also transcends to your kids and your grandkids. A good financial advisor like Beth, and we've talked about this, Beth, where really a lot of advisors will ask and say, Margaret, I already know you have kids, and you don't talk very much about your grandchildren's financial literacy. Why don't you bring them in when they're in town sometime?
Yeah, it's powerful.
Talk about money and stuff. Get the kids kind of involved. That's the relationship with the advisor, and that's why you don't let go of that relationship, because they're looking out for your best interest. That's why their retention rates are high.
It's a really good attitude. I think, Pam, that you're doing a really amazing job. You're offering an amazing service with Wealth Ramp because you're actually doing the hard work for people in finding these individuals like Beth who are fiduciaries that care. And it's really interesting as we've been talking. I've realized, like, I was going to make a joke when you said about, getting to know someone personally, like, oh, like your hairdresser, or it's like someone like your dentist that you will. But that was so trivial. What's really important is, like, it should be your doctor. It should be the person that knows you intimately about your health and your family and your depression or your anxiety. And that's so missing in just so much in society today, don't you think, in general?
There's one more comparison that I'll make really quick. Yeah. So when I go to get my taxes done by Dan, my accountant, and I love my CPA, I love him, but honestly, I'm not going to lie. I don't really want to know that much. It's like, okay, I get it. I get the concept. I'm paying taxes and I'm looking at everything and I have to sign it. So I have to read it. But that's what people think of when they think about financial advisor. Go to the advisor, make transactions, let it all just happen over there. I don't really want that much to do with it. Yes. And that's what people are finally starting to realize with all this talk of fiduciary and why it's so important, because it's not that relationship, just like you just said. Yeah. It's a real collaborative relationship where you're talking about your life.
Yeah. Well, I think that what you said earlier about the person on a low income too should just consider this a one-time meeting, because like you say, it's the anxiety about money that's really the cause of so much stress. And if you can just get a grip on it, that you're doing the best you can, you've got, like you say, a quarterback or someone backing you up and supporting you, is huge. And I'm really grateful to you too for showing this face of the fiduciary world and financial advising in its broadest human sense. And I would love to encourage people that are watching this video to leave your questions for Pam and Beth. And we will be doing these conversations on Retire Different really frequently. And we'd love to know what's on your mind. What we've covered a lot, actually. We've done 3 different talks today that will be released on YouTube and on our website. But just tell us what's on your mind so we can build, more conversations like this in the future. So Pam, last word for our folks about dealing with financial advisors. What do you say?
Look at them as a whole, as only 5% of all advisors are truly competent, truly fiduciary, and really qualified to work with you and deserve your business. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth. It's an industry. It's not a profession. Don't confuse it. It's not a profession. So you have to be very, very, very careful.
Yeah. Well, and look for someone like Beth. And Beth, I want to thank you for being here because, this has been a really interesting conversation for me. I've never met a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've never heard people talking about money in such a human way. And I really appreciate you bringing that to the table. And Pam, of course, that's in your blood. That's what you do. So I'm just really honored to have had the time with both of you. So until we talk again. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our Retire Different YouTube channel and check out our website at retiredifferent.com. We are a community of people who are asking questions and trying to make good financial decisions so that we can have an amazing retirement. We'll be looking at our relationship to money and also places that we can go for support, advice, and inspiration.